It may start with a cough that simply won't go away, or flu-like symptoms that stay with you for weeks at a time. It may be shortness of breath or an ache in your joints that starts from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep at night. Maybe you've seen the doctor and still there seems to be no answer. If this sounds like you or someone you love and you're concerned, or if you or a family member worked in construction or near a shipyard or grew up near a manufacturing plant, then the next half hour can make a difference in your life. Stay tuned as we share some very important information for anyone who may be concerned about the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we live on. As we present the dangers no one talks about. Welcome to our show. I'm Laura McDonnell. Entire books, magazine, and newspaper articles have been written about toxic disasters like the Love Canal, the Hudson Valley, Libby, Montana, and more. Documentaries and movies have been made, including the Academy Award-winning film Erin Brockovich, which told the heart-wrenching story of Hinckley, a small Southern California town afflicted with industrial water contamination that resulted in devastating illnesses among its residents. But how real is the threat of toxic poisons in our air, water, and land? Is it just something that happens somewhere else? Or is it a serious concern for you and your family? Today's show will hopefully educate and inform you and your loved ones as to the possible risks and dangers that may exist in your home, your workplace, and your community. We're not here to frighten you or to create hysteria or even to exaggerate possible dangers. Ideally, you'll come away from our show feeling reassured and free from worry and anxiety. For others, this show may be the wake-up call they need to act and seek help. Until now, they may be ignoring that chronic headache, those dizzy spells, or that pain in their joints that starts the moment they wake up and lasts all day. Today's show may be just what you need to hear to ask yourself the hard questions about your health or the health of a loved one. Now, get paper and pencil and be ready to write down some of the important information we are about to share during our show.
For a trial lawyer, nothing beats winning. Nothing equals the satisfaction of seeing your clients compensated for the devastating illness they've suffered. If you or someone in your family has mesothelioma or another asbestos-related disease, there's only one firm you want representing you. A firm that has won over $1 billion in verdicts and settlements for its clients. Whites and Luxembourg.
Our first story today is about asbestos, one of the more common toxic materials. It's a poison that continues to plague everyday people.
Well, asbestos is a fiber that's pulled out of the ground, kind of in a raw state. It looks almost sort of like a fabric, like cotton almost, and it has iron in it. The unique part of asbestos, the reason people use it, is because it insulates. You can take it and work with it and push it on something, and it will be like a fire retardant.
Bruce Beaumier is the founder of the Institute for Environmental Assessment and has dedicated over 30 years to improving the indoor environment of our country's schools for students and staff alike. He is board chairman of the Environmental Resource Council and has been featured as an environmental commentator on NPR, National Public Radio, as well as testified before Congress on asbestos and its health risks.
Yeah, historically, asbestos was considered to be sort of this magic compound. They would blow asbestos into the insulations in case there was a fire, so the material would be fireproof, and they bound it into floor tile and ceiling tile and any building product they could. Most pipes were insulated with asbestos, so it became just this sort of common product that was used everywhere for construction. So if you're cutting floor tile or ceiling tile, or you're working with piping, chances are the workers were exposed, and those are the people that are at risk, because daily they had burdens of this stuff introduced into their bodies. Back in the 60s, a research physician named Irving Selikoff, a really remarkable scientist, didn't really trust the product. He knew there was iron in it. He knew people inhaled it. And he correctly surmised and then proved that workers exposed to asbestos over time would develop disease. The fiber would get caught in lung tissue, it'd start to oxidize, it'd rust, and around that rusting oxidation, you'd start to see mutated tissue and then higher levels of cancer.
Bruce then talked about what type of workers are typically affected by asbestos exposure.
The occupations that we tend to find most risk relative to asbestos have to do with, first, insulators, the men and women that actually pump this stuff into buildings and batch it into ceiling tile and floor tile and other products. They were often exposed to tremendous burdens of this stuff. The next threshold, which is what Irving Selikoff identified, with electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, sometimes carpenters, people who are working around asbestos exposure. And then there you have the big one, which is when you have a building that's torn apart or renovated or remodeled. And if you don't have the right hygiene in the construction site, anybody working in there is going to inhale a certain burden of this stuff. Starting in the 80s, asbestos, when we understood asbestos represented unquestionably a health risk, the Environmental Protection Agency began to put in place regulations and guidelines.
So we then asked Bruce, is it possible to overreact to the threat of asbestos?
When we really understood, we began to see these cancer cases that are clearly related to this exposure. You had a sort of a confused kind of panic. And for a while we had overreacted, particularly to kids and occupants in buildings where there was asbestos. You know, this stuff isn't radioactive. It doesn't radiate down to hurt you. It has to get into ambient air and get inhaled. When you talk about asbestos and disease, the link you kind of look for is, was a person exposed with some frequency to building products and to asbestos in ambient air? If that stuff is inhaled, and if it remains in the body and there's a certain burden of it the body just can't get rid of, then you've triggered the risk. And now a process begins where the fiber begins to oxidize, it rusts, and you begin seeing the manifestation of mutated tissue.
If you or someone you love develop malignant mesothelioma, a cancer of the lining of the lungs or abdomen after working in the construction, automotive, or shipping industries, or in one of these at-risk jobs, there is no cure for malignant mesothelioma, but settlement from asbestos lawsuits has helped families deal with the burden of outstanding medical bills, loss of income, and other financial complications resulting from medical treatment.
Well, today, in terms of looking at asbestos and disease, there's no longer really question of the connection. We can link up certainly almost all, probably all mesothelioma to asbestos exposure, cancer of the mesothelioma. Now, when you have someone that all of a sudden develops mesothelioma or cancer of the lung, and it's been years, decades before the exposure, they don't make the connection. With asbestos, you're talking about years or maybe decades before that fiber begins to essentially create mutated tissue and cancer. If you or someone you know has developed mesothelioma, it's just about 100% link to asbestos exposure.
Winning. It takes talent, commitment, passion. On the court or in court. It's all about being the best. If you have mesothelioma or another asbestos-related disease, you need a firm representing you that knows how to win. You need Weitz and Luxenberg.
Thanks for watching. The information in today's show is so important to people everywhere that we don't want you to miss a moment. That's why we're going to repeat this vital information on how you or someone you love can get the help you need. Take a moment now to call a friend or a loved one who may benefit from this show, and sit back as we again share this extremely important information.